All right, here we go. We're back for the top four. Norman Cohen, owner of New Ridge Gaming, is in the director's chair, and we actually made it back live. The stream did not implode. It's impressive. Steps in the right direction. I'm here with Beky Bell. She's going to be with me for the last two rounds. We've got the semis and the finals. We got a bracket. Let's see it before the players get started.
Let's see it.
So we've got Will Krueger, #1 overall seed, playing Orzhov Hammer against Andrew Tenjum, playing Rakdos Lurrus. We're going to start on that match. The other side of the table is Robert Hayes on 4-color Yorion versus Ty on Temur Rhinos. That match is likely going to take longer, at least that's our expectation. So we're going to start with Will and Andrew and then plan on transitioning over.
Okay.
If there's any extended breaks or if the match just finishes. So the players are currently looking at each other's deck list and shuffling up. So we're going to do the same. Well, we're going to look at deck lists. If you have a deck in front of you at home, you can shuffle along with the players, but we're just going to look at the deck lists. Andrew Tenjum,
what Magic player doesn't have just a pile of cards sitting on their desk that they can shuffle when they're bored?
None that I've ever met. Yeah.
Exactly.
One of my friends stopped playing Magic like 10 years ago, and sometimes when we're talking on the phone or something, I can hear him shuffling a deck of cards that just has next to his desk. All right, so Rakdos Lurrus. We saw in the previous match where Ragavan, well, never even got, I don't think it ever even got cast, but it wouldn't have ever gotten through if it had. Conversely, in this match, it also will never get through, as Will Krueger has an abundance of 0 and 1 mana creatures. So let's go ahead and check out Will Krueger's list. We've seen it before. We had an interview with him earlier. He is running, in his flex slots of the Orzhov Hammer deck, he has a pair of core outfitters and a Ginger Brute. Somehow Ginger Brute has made its way into Modern. I don't understand how people even think of these things.
This card is so cool, though.
I know. It was barely playable in Limited, and here it is, barely playable in Modern as well. So players are ready to go. It's a Lurrus mirror with far different constructions aside from that.
Yes.
Let's go ahead and go down to the table. It looks like Will Krueger is happy with his hand. Andrew Tenjum's still shuffling. And Will Krueger will have the choice of being on the play throughout the elimination rounds as befits him as the #1 seed of the event. Not because he's the #1 on the leaderboard.
But he is that as well.
Yeah, but he is that as well. So.
Okay, deciding exactly what we want from this hand. If we are Andrew Tenjum, I believe, is probably on a mulligan to 6. And trying to figure out which one of these cards is simply not good enough to make the cut.
Okay, so Will Krueger begins with an Esper Sentinel and a pass. This kind of puts a damper on Andrew Tenjum's opener of, I believe there's Inquisition of Kozilek, which is now doesn't really want to be cast in turn 1 anymore.
Yeah, that is kind of interesting. And Will Krueger, I'm sure, kind of feeling a little bit smug as we do see Andrew Tenjum going to go for that pass, trying to make sure that if we're trying to get a card out of Will Krueger's hand, he doesn't get one just back for free.
Yeah, we can't really spend a card to make our opponent loot. Even if we're choosing the card, it's like, okay, we'll expend a card to Vendilion click them. That's not a good deal. So, Esper Sentinel in for 1.
This matchup seems rough for Will.
Well, yeah, there are some certainly nuisance cards. There is a whole trio of 1-drops there, 4 of them, in fact.
Will do a little bit of a shrug, shake, saying, "Oh, I could have attacked with the Ginger Brute this turn as well," and a little bit of a point there missed, but recognizing it almost immediately.
Okay, so lots of mana available for Will next to Stoneforge Mystic in hand. Andrew, yeah, if the time is going to come to cast the Inquisition, if he does in fact have one, that was probably it. Although with double Esper Sentinel, he would still be giving Will a card. He just doesn't want to do that. And I understand.
Yeah, at least these Esper Sentinels doing a good job of keeping Will from keeping Andrew from potentially kind of running away with this game and staving back some of the hand disruption and removal that could be played from Andrew's side. But thankfully, with some lands in hand, hopefully soon we'll be able to play that hand disruption as well as those removal spells. And this cranial plating is in hand, something that could certainly be a target for this Inquisition.
What is the deal with this tapping? Like, you can tap it as long as we can tell the difference, whatever angle of degree of rotation you want is tapping is fine, but you can't have multiple different ones.
Yeah, you can't have a horizontal and a diagonal. There we go. Thank you, Will.
So, Andrew Tenjum, what can we do? These Esper Sentinels are annoying the crap out of him. One of them has been dispatched at the cost of will drawing a card. Pays for this one and reveals cranial plating, Colossus Hammer, and Core Outfitter.
Oh, okay. So the card that Will has spoken very highly of is in hand and could potentially be deployed, and will not be deployed, as it is the card chosen to be gotten rid of.
But this cranial plating is gonna come down.
Not really a joke.
No, it's certainly not. There's already, I mean, it's not like a Colossus Hammer, but there are plenty of artifacts on the board. Currently, it looks like 4 plus a Nexus, and the plating would count itself. So that'd be, plus 5 or 6 damage. That's a bundle. Andrew Tenjum at 16. Another Inquisition. There's not a second draw, as Esper Sentinel only triggers once a turn. Plating goes away, and now Andrew Tenjum, this looks like something you can do. And Will Kreuger's like, you can't tap fetch lands for mana. And Andrew Tenjum's like, you fool, I have an Urborg in play. Yes, and...
Oh, but the Pure Steel Paladin off the top? Like, oh my gosh. Okay, Will.
You dare to correct me on this Urborg fetch land mana, you're just going to die. And that's what happens. So, Will Krueger up a game with Orzhov Hammer on the play. Now, we're going to conduct an informal poll. Chat, would you rather watch sideboarding? Would you rather watch us talk about sideboarding or rather watch the other match play? I know the answer. They'd rather watch the other match play. Let's go. Here we are. Robert Hayes versus Ty. 4-color Yorion versus Temur Rhinos. Teferi into play. I'm going to have to kind of adjust my pacing here as we went from 4 cards being played a turn to like 1/2.
1/2.
Well, okay. There's a pair. So that's a Force of Negation, which, I mean, Temur Rhinos is not beating Teferi. It's just, I mean, they conceivably can keep it off the board, but if it's on the board, it disrupts everything they're trying to do.
Yeah, hopefully has something else should a second one be the play for Robert. I mean, it was a joke when I was just saying it. I didn't actually mean it, but that is the case. Robert Hayes is able to deploy and stick the second Teferi and pluses just to make sure that it stays out of range of being able to get taken down.
Yeah, boy, it is possible that Ty can get rid of that. There is Fury to potentially evoke, and I believe there's a Fire Ice also. So that could, I mean, that would feel awful. But I believe, you know what? I'm not sure if the second card from the left of Ty's hand is a Fire Ice. If it is, I kind of feel like you need to cast it there, as this mana is going to go to waste now. And what potentially could have happened, assuming Robert Hayes has nothing, would be fire the Teferi, then pass to Robert, Teferi pluses, and then Ty's turn, Fury the Teferi away, and then cast Shardless Agent and get a pair of 4/4s. That's, I mean, that's maybe not card efficient, but I feel like that's the best he's got. And now that's just not an option. Teferi rolls up to 6 because Ty's not going to have access to 5 mana in one turn here.
Yeah, this is going to be a rough situation, to say the least, as this Teferi ticks up higher and higher, and these burn spells get further and further from being able to take it down. And if we're not able to get any Rhinos onto the battlefield, trying to find a way to move this Teferi is just going to become a further and further dream for Tylamin.
I mean, Ty's plan might be to hardcast these Furies, which can also work if he does manage to hit his all the way through his 5th land drop. Here's a Fury from Robert, which is not going to amount to a whole bunch, but he's just trying to get a clock on as he feels like he's got the board secured with this Teferi. But if Ty can come back with his own Fury and perhaps pick off Robert's Fury and then shoot Teferi for 1, like that's something.
It certainly is something. Whether it is enough to keep him in this game or not remains to be the question. A Seasoned Pyromancer now the draw, and that is at least something that we can get to stick on the board. And now that this Fury is something that is deployed, potentially something that can stick. We do know that Robert Hayes' 4-color elemental Kahira deck, even though our overlay is a little bit incorrect there, does play 4 copies of Ephemerate to be able to blink these elementals and try to get some value back that way.
That's true. And you know what? Ty is not going to potentially run into that. He's just going to shoot the Teferi with a full shot, not even to bother exchanging with Robert's Fury in case there is an Ephemerate, which would make the shot worthless. All right. These players will probably still be playing. So let's go ahead and go back to the quicker match where Andrew and Will are getting ready for game 2.
Yeah, Will managed to get game number 1, but kind of in a surprising fashion. Both of those Esper Sentinels and Andrew respecting them, making it so that Will was able to kind of get under the aggressive and cheap removal and hand disruption that Andrew is playing.
Yeah, and Andrew was also the mulligan in that game. This game hopefully faring better, off to a decent start. Mishra's Bauble reveals a Springleaf drum there that Will just draws into his hand, as both players know that's what's happening. Dragon Rage Chandler on the board. And Will, I mean, just by the nature of being on the draw, these Esper Sentinels, if he has them, are going to be much less effective.
Much less effective indeed, but probably not too much to snuff at, and something likely worth playing anyway, as we do see that, I believe, Springleaf Drum into Memnite into tap to be able to get one onto the field, just to make sure that if it did as much work as it did in game 1, we'll go ahead and try for it again.
Sure, why not? That's pretty, I mean, no one's going to complain about playing 4 cards in turn 1, even though if they have combined power of 2. But they also have cost of 2, so I guess it's a good deal. Unholy Heat. Okay. Yeah, so paying for the cost and then surveilling. Esper Sentinel does die. Dragon Rage Chandler in for 1. And Andrew Tenjum with a Python Needle among other cards in hand, probably feeling better than he was last game. Python Needle against Orzhov Hammer is fine. It's not great. I mean, it does stop some of the ability to equip Colossus Hammer, but not all of it.
You could name something like this Urza Saga.
Yeah, you could. And that was Lurrus being picked up. So Krueger's getting ready for the longer game.
Okay. I mean, I think Will is doing a good job of recognizing how the first game went in his favor and what that reason was, and has probably, I mean, he's spoken very highly of this deck, and I assume has played a lot of it as a result and understands more about this matchup and knows that Lurrus is an important part of it, and being able to make sure that you can recur things like the Esper Sentinel and some other things that could potentially get destroyed further on. So I like kind of going for this aggressive pickup of Lurrus here.
So something I'm going to comment on here is Will Krueger just picked up his Lurrus, and you can see it's in a different sleeve than the rest of his deck. I don't know if I've seen that before, but I think that's really quite a good idea, as there are a fair number of players that I've spoken to have shuffled companions back into their deck and then not without realizing it. And this will just completely solve that issue, as long as, I mean, as long as Will is able to identify that one of the cards in his deck is green and the other ones are purple. There you go. Problem solved. Now, that may not be a solution that works for every single player, as I think I've mentioned in coverage in the past that I once played in Grand Prix, and a player drawing for the turn drew the card off of my deck instead of their deck. Different colored sleeves, wasn't a mirror match, and I had to point out to him, you have one of my cards in your hand.
Yeah.
And yeah, so but for everyone besides that player, the green sleeve should be a tip-off that you have your companion in your hand, and you may want to consider putting it back in the companion zone instead of shuffling it for game 2. Okay, so after all that long diatribe, we missed. What did I miss? I missed Inquisition taking Lurrus.
Yep, Inquisition took away the Lurrus. Thought we were gonna maybe tap that Plains, but instead tap the Memnite and go for this Sigarda's Aid. 2 lands in hand and an unknown for Will Krueger. Thank you for playing face up.
Yeah, that is convenient for us. Andrew Tenjum still holding explosives, I assume, and there is some conflict on playing against Orzhov Hammer on what you want to play explosives on. 0 handles the Saga tokens and 8 of the creature, or some of the creatures, and 1 handles Colossus Hammers and Sigarda's Aid. Both are appealing.
Both are appealing, and I think it kind of just depends on what you're facing down in the moment, what you're a little more afraid of, what you potentially could be losing to. But I think that Andrew Tenjum, at least so far in this game right now, is in a pretty strong position.
Oh, yeah, it may look that way for the moment, and with Will only having one card extra in his hand. However, this Urza Saga is going to sacrifice and bring something like a Colossus Hammer into play and then immediately equip it. So that is going to be troublesome. And Andrew Tenjum also playing a different colored sleeve. So maybe this is just the new trend and I'm just completely unaware of it, as his different colored sleeve Lurrus also enters his hand. And what is the plan here? Isn't Andrew Tenjum going to get kind of annihilated? Construct is made.
Yeah.
Urza Saga sacrifices. Colossus Hammer comes into play, equips, and Andrew Tenjum is destroyed.
Dead.
Yeah.
I mean, okay.
I'm not sure if, well, maybe he had nothing to. I mean, there was a Pyroid Spellbomb in his hand, so at the very least, that feels like it could have held off some of the incoming damage or explosive. I don't know. I wonder if I wonder if Andrew Tenjum just missed the fact that the Sigarda's aid was going to allow the Colossus Hammer to auto-equip. Because I can't. Well, I'm not sure.
Unsure.
Okay.
But
yeah.
I do believe that we should also have another backup match that we can go into, hopefully, and take a peek at and at least figure out how our other game is shaking up going into our finals. As congratulations to.
Yeah, congratulations to Will Krueger. The other match is the little voice in my ear said they just finished game one. So let's go ahead and look at the sideboards, and perhaps we can tell me who won game one. Okay, so they need a minute to upload the deck list. That's fine. But Will Krueger is one of our finalists, and he and we and all of you at home are waiting to see the winner of the other match to see who Will be playing. It is going to be either a 4-color Elementals deck powered by Yorion and Risen Reef, or
powered by Kahira and Risen Reef.
Right. It's Kahira. Good call. It's not Yorion. Did it say Yorion on the sheet?
It does say Yorion on the sheet.
Yeah, okay, that's why. Yeah, you're right. It is Kahira. Or a Temur Crashcade deck, which we've seen. We know that's a significant part of the game. It is a deck where everyone understands what's coming and hasn't exactly cleaned the house on camera this weekend. All right, so here is the 4-color elemental deck powered by not Yorion. And yeah, we see fairly standard set of stuff. We have the 5 Omnath package, which I just get a kick out of every single time.
Yeah, we are seeing 4 of the 4-color one, and then an Omnath Locus of the Royal for good luck on top of it. Some of the big important cards that we're seeing in Robert Hayes' deck that we've been very impressed by are things like the Teferi Time Raveler that really just kind of solidify the impact that this deck can have in certain matchups, as well as the 4 copies of Ephemerate that make it very great to get some of these double ETB triggers that a lot of these elementals have to offer. So that's the name of the game for this 4-color elementals deck. Yeah,
and the sideboard in this matchup, Force Negation is probably coming in for sure as trying to, and explosives. Explosives is a great way to deal with both 4/4s at once. So that's what we're going to be looking at from Robert Hayes. Ty's Temur Rhinos deck really isn't trying to, it's trying to defend against the opponent's preventative measures. It's not trying to keep itself alive. So how do we deal with Teferi? And the answer is we have Mystical Disputes, and then we're going to hope that's enough. I mean, Subtlety could come in. Maybe that's what it's here for. I'm not sure. Subtlety is a card that seems to me, out of the incarnations, Subtlety I feel like is the least impressive.
Yeah, I agree. How do you feel about something like a Mystical Dispute to be able to make sure that something like an Omnath or a Teferi doesn't come onto the board? You think that that's a good card?
I mean, I think it's a great card. I think I would be holding it for. I mean, countering Omnath is great. I suppose your opponent's probably not holding Teferi back, but yeah, Teferi is the primary card that we have to keep off the board. Blood Moon is a possibility. These Rhinos decks are bringing Blood Moons in against everybody. and just forcing them to deal with it. And it's frustrating because you don't want to bring in, a disenchant effect against this Rhinos deck. What are you going to do? Kill a Shardless agent? That's awful. But you kind of have to respect these blood moons. And for myself, I find myself in my 4-color Omnath deck, which is different than the one we're seeing here, but it's the same idea as far as dealing with Blood Moon. I bring in 2 Force of Vigors against just Blood Moon because it's just devastating if they can get it in. And sometimes you can't fetch enough basics to be able to deal with it.
Yep.
So certainly going first allows you to have an easier time with that. Robert Hayes did win game 1, so Ty is on the play here. Blood Moon can get things, make it a little out of hand and get Robert Hayes dead before the game even gets started.
Yep, certainly just taking close looks at these sideboards, trying to make sure they're making all the correct decisions going into this game 2. Tylamin is down a game, so this game 2 is exceptionally important for his side here.
Yeah, and already in the top 4 of the event, so, maybe you just feel like you're free rolling from this point on. You already did well for yourself. You earned Nerd Rage points. You earned some money. You got some in your pocket to, perhaps you could spend your prize money on the Nerd Rage sale coming this week, starting tomorrow. 10% off singles. All you have to do is check on Twitter to get the code that comes in because we hit 10,000 Twitch followers, which awesome for that, awesome for us, awesome sale. And Ty needs to come back here because he wants to pad his wallet to have more money to spend on the sale. We'll see if he's able to do it. Yeah. I mean, I'm sure that's all these players are thinking about is how am I going to spend my prize money in the Nerd Rage store? Maybe, maybe not. But they're certainly
how am I going to buy more foil cards for my sideboard if you're Robert Hayes?
Yeah, I mean, you have to make it as difficult on coverage as you possibly can. Let's go.
It is interesting. Do you see the English versions of Teferi Time Ravelers, not the Japanese Altart versions? I'm just saying, Robert Hayes has all the other Japanese Altart versions. Why isn't Teferi the Japanese Altart version?
Are you saying his deck's illegal?
I'm saying his deck is illegal.
Oh, well, we got to get these judges over there.
I know,
all right,
for sure.
Opening hands for game 2. Hi, looking at, looks like, is it 2 land and a fire ice? Is that good enough? I mean, obviously we need a 3rd land, but fire ice is really good at setting back your opponent and keeping annoying cards off the board. There is a Blood Moon and there is a Crashing Footfalls, another Crashing Footfalls drawn by these Team Rhinos players. What are they doing? I think really we're averaging 2 a game.
Yeah, and it's always rough when you're having to watch these Footfalls players go for the first suspend, though normally the first suspend isn't too bad, but I think we've seen more Crashing Footfalls be on suspend than get cascaded into in this turn.
It's not even close.
Yes.
It's like 5-1. At least this one's on turn 1. It's better than turn 5 suspend, but we'll see. Okay, so Fury is the draw. Again, unclear if Ty has a 3rd land in hand. Haven't spotted it yet. There's a Fury, there's a Blood Moon, there's a Fire Ice. Haven't looked at Robert Hayes' hand yet. There's a basic island. That is not what Ty wants to see with the Blood Moon looming.
Yeah, Robert Hayes, kind of with a heads-up player going for 2 basics at the start of the game, knowing that Blood Moon is in Ty's sideboard and being like, okay, I'm ready for it.
There's the Utopia Sprawl. Decent chance that's naming white, and that's just, I mean, Robert Hayes is just like, boy, I hope you didn't bring in Blood Moon, because it is naming white. Your Blood Moon is just not going to work.
I mean, you have to anticipate that,
all right.
Oh, okay. Thankfully, a land off the top, because I don't think that Ty had a land, but thankfully getting this Scalding Tarn.
Yeah, okay. So passing the turn, and then, so even though this Utopia Sprawl isn't on the board, this ice is going to make it like it's not there for this turn, and Ty will be able to head into his turn 4 with at least 3 mana available, with Robert stuck on 1 or 2, and just 1 mana. Okay, so Robert does not actually have red. I mean, I don't know if this Blood Moon's going to come down or not, but it's unusual to be stuck without red mana while facing a Blood Moon.
Certainly true, and interesting to see that this Scalding Tarn is not going to go for it's going for a Triumph that will be able to get us red mana, but not going for some kind of basic, potentially not having any mountains in the deck to be able to cast it with, but going to turn some of these other lands into mountains anyway.
Beky Bell, are you seriously suggesting our opponent should have gotten a mountain so he'd be able to have red mana under a Blood Moon?
A little bit, yes.
Okay. All right. Well, it is late in the day. Forgive you. All right. So
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Breeding Pool comes off, and I think he actually has a Cryptic Command in his hand. I think there's a one of in the list. I'll tell you what. I mean, I'm not sure it actually is a Cryptic Command, but what would be great here is counterbalance the Forest.
It does look like it is a Cryptic Command.
Well, this isn't going to get Forced Negation, and it's counter draw. Okay, I mean that's fine. I wonder. I mean, drawing cards is nice. I understand that, but with Robert Hayes stuck on 2 land, bouncing this Forest and sending this Utopia Sprawl to the graveyard
would have been huge.
Yeah, it seems appealing, but okay, here we're in for 8. This is not something that.
They came in this
somebody's sick. All right. Ty bluffed me.
It's late in the day.
Yeah, well, see, I mean, he just pretends to attack. Maybe Robert Hayes will take 8, and maybe I'll let it happen because yeah. All right, so the Blood Moon is of no value right now. Do we want to add Seasoned Pyromancer to the board? We have some options. We could hardcast Fury. We could hold up this Brazen Barber. I'm even using Petty Theft to bounce the Utopia Sprawl. Potentially would set Robert Hayes back. I don't hate that either because then it could still be cast at the end of the turn.
Yeah, lots of options here if you are Ty, and not a lot of choices if you are Robert Hayes, stuck on kind of some unfortunate mana right now. There's a second red source to be able to hardcast the Fury, should that be the decision.
All right, here is Seasoned Pyromancer. Are we pitching any of these cards? Looks like Blood Moon's going to go. All right. And, well, we've got 3 cards left that Ty likes. Now, this is picky, but I do think you don't want to give too much away to your opponent. You want, like, this definitely revealed that he had 2 cards he wanted to keep. Whereas if you just, whether you do it in 1 second or take 10 seconds and then do it, you want to try and pretend that all your cards are of equal value, and certainly that was not the information that was conveyed right there. So anyway, Robert Hayes untaps, facing down 12 power.
Yeah, lots of power. Put this card into hand, and it was a land. So a little bit of sweat wiped off the brow if you're Robert Hayes. Time to try and get back into this game.
Maybe a little bit, but this is still
not good. But
yeah. He's up a game. So if this one gets away from him, all right. There's a Solitude, pitching a Omnath, and this could get him most of the way back right off the bat. As I think Ty has a Mystical Dispute, but that's not going to counter this Solitude. And then here's an Ephemerate, and Mystical Dispute's not going to counter that either. So Robert Hayes choosing not to exile the pair of 4/4s. He takes out the Young Pyromancer first. That's it's probably a pretty wise decision, and I feel like it's not. Okay.
All
right.
Huh.
All right.
Okay.
So that burns off the Ephemerate, which does do quite a bit of good there, as that was going to kill 2 more creatures, and oh boy.
Speaking of killing multiple creatures,
Robert Hayes is like, "Fool, did you fall for my bait? Get out of here with your little army."
I mean, did fall for the bait. In fact, the engineered explosives was good.
I don't think Ty could have done anything about that anyway, but jeez. Well, Ty, I was thinking that you were going to take down this game and move to game 3. I may have been optimistic there, as it doesn't look really very good for you anymore.
Yeah, I mean, card still in hand. Does still have this Brazen Bar. We're in the Adventure Zone. It has a Fury in hand still, I believe. So still possible. Flamekin on the field now.
Flamekin Harbinger. Tutor an Elemental onto the top of your deck. Common choices are Risen Reef or Gigantic Pitch cards that kill your opponent's stuff. So let's see what Robert chooses to go with. And it is Omnath.
Yes. Something either played or pitched pretty commonly, as it is able to be thrown under the bus for all of the evoke elementals quite nicely.
Mm-hmm. Oh, okay. So the draw there for the turn for Ty was another Mystical Dispute. So he does have this Omnath covered, and if he's got something like a Violent Outburst, then he's still in this.
Mm-hmm. Certainly still in this, considering that we don't see anything being played on Ty's side of the field. We do still know about the Fury, I believe, so that can be a play in the near future.
So we know about the Fury in Ty's hand, or
in Ty's hand, I believe.
Okay, and Ty knows about the Solitude in Robert's hand that he bounced.
Yes.
Here is a Risen Reef. That's going to eat a Dispute. So that can get out of here. And yeah, I think there's an Outburst in here. There is. Okay, this is not so bad. Weathering the first explosives, wiping out a good portion of his board. The explosives also really slams home the idea that, of course, that Solitude was going to take down the Pyromancer, because the explosives was going to clean up everything else.
Yes.
If Robert needed it to. But okay, 2 4/4s back on the board. These ones also don't have haste, but they're going to be able to attack on Ty's first turn after they come into play. Here we go, in for 8. Conveniently half of Robert's life total. Ty passes the turn. And if Robert casts the Omnath that we know he triggered for, we might be back on to game 3. And there's the Omnath. Bam, there you go. Oof. Okay. All right.
So we did talk about the Mystical Dispute coming in for something like the Omnath, as it can kind of just run away with a game if it's able to get in there and stick onto the field. So nice to see that still coming in and still being very relevant. And we will be going to a game 3 between these two players. Finally kind of getting to see this Crashcade deck really take flight or take rampage. Whatever you want to say for a group of Rhinos.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes I start talking while I'm on camera and then haven't thought things through, and it just kind of comes out, and it's just like, oh, that was a mess. That's okay, Beky. We forgive you. Chat can probably come up with a good word for the sound or the impact of Rhinos charging at you. At least better than you could in that scenario. Okay.
I'm just trying to make fun plays on what.
No, I know. You're providing opportunities for chat to get in the game by giving them something to get excited about, to correct us for. I do that all the time. It's purposeful. I get it. You're an experienced caster. You know all about these things, these tricks that you do when things are dry, and you're like, hey, chat, I'm going to tell a joke, except you don't tell them it's a joke. You just wait for yourself to screw something up and go with it.
Yep,
okay,
exactly.
So you're right. We did see Disputes play a big role there. We did see Ty rebuild after getting absolutely blown out with the first assault wave, and yeah, the second wave got it done. So players shuffling up to see who gets the honor of playing as Will Krueger in the finals. Both of these players with Force of Vigors in sideboard. So Will Krueger is going to have some work to do in the finals. However, presumably Will Krueger has played some other people with Force of Vigors on the day and hasn't lost yet. So maybe these players are just fighting for the honor of being pancake smashed by Will in the finals. I don't know. I'm not making predictions. I'm just trying to get us through the rest of this broadcast, which is in something like its 10th or 11th hour at this point. Thanks for being with us. Beky, thanks for being here, sticking this out through this rather long event, as we had 9 rounds of Swiss with it. 9 rounds. I can't even speak anymore. 9 rounds of Swiss today, because you know what? Rage gaming is popular. More popular than we thought, apparently. Good for us. Good for everyone that's here. Good for you guys that are all watching. We still haven't finished shuffling. I'm trying to fill this time up, and players are taking their time, because you're in the top 4 of an event at like 11 o'clock at night. Sounds like a good time to pile shuffle, right? I mean, why not?
As good a time as any, Thankfully, they did change that rule. You're only allowed to pile shuffle once
That's
per
true.
match
That's
of Magic. So,
excellent
getting a
point.
little bit of a save there.
All right, while we're waiting, we're going to bring up the slide one more time for next month's event.
Woo.
December 11th and 12th in Milwaukee, Saturday Legacy 5K, Sunday Modern 5K. Be there. And if you need some new cards and you want for that event and you want to get them this week, 10% off code will be posted on Twitter tomorrow. Why? Because we love you, and also because you love us, and we give us 10,000 Twitch followers, which we achieved today. So the reward is 10% off this week. Coupon being posted on Twitter tomorrow. Okay, that did the job. We're back. We're in game 3 of the top 4. Players have drawn their opening hands. Please, nobody mulled a 3. Excellent.
Oh, nope. No mulls to be had. We are in a full 7 for both of our players and in for a tense game 3 between 4-color Kahira Elementals and Temur Rhinos.
All right, so Utopia Sprawl on what I think is a stomping ground. Interestingly, on this one, Utopia Sprawl has to enchant a forest. So if Blood Moon were to come down, I think the Utopia Sprawl would actually fall off.
Oh, no.
I'm not 100% on that, as I actually haven't seen the interaction happen, but I do think that's the way it works. And of course, as every Team of Rhinos player all day has done, suspend on turn 1. I mean, this is a threat. It's fine.
It's a threat in 4 turns from now.
Yeah, it's not. I mean, it's unfortunate especially against a Teferi deck where you just put this thing out there and they're like, okay, cool. Now I know what turn I need to play the Teferi in order to make your card worthless.
Robert Hayes has been known to get to Teferi or 2 when he is in need of it. So
yeah, I mean, playing it right now wouldn't be the worst thing. I mean, it was still vulnerable to Fury, but instead we're going to see Flamekin Harbinger. Okay, not a powerhouse start, but he will find himself the card he wants. And it's Risen Reef. So we're getting ready to play a value game here and turn our elemental incarnations into 1-for-1s instead of 2-for-1s, which is always a good place to be.
Always a good place to be indeed, especially when that was kind of a part of the problem for Robert Hayes in the last match. Certainly not being able to get enough lands, which Risen Reef can help out with a lot. So just trying to keep Robert Hayes in this match for as long as possible and not run into too many problems with these Rhinos.
I don't dislike Ty's hand. There is a mystical dispute, a seasoned pyromancer, enough lands, I believe, a Fire Ice and Prismari command. No cascading card, as like Peter Tragos before him, he likes to draw his Crushing Footfalls, not cascade into them. But we'll see if the rest of these cards are enough to get the job done, and he can draw into a cascade spell later, because it isn't something you need to draw on the first couple turns, because it's not even castable right away. So, what do we have, Robert Hayes? This elemental that can do all kinds of fancy things and get out of control. Often that does start with Risen Reef, and that would put Ty to the test. Do you counter this? Do you save your Mystical Dispute for a scarier card?
I don't know. Risen Reef is pretty scary.
Yeah, it is. It is. And the question would be, if Robert had Teferi, is it possible he would play the Risen Reef first and then try and bait and then play the Teferi later? I'm not sure. Maybe you just, because if he does that and then Ty plays, Charlotte's Agent and gets a couple of 4/4s, well, then your Teferi's looking a lot worse. So a lot of times you just gun it out there, and that is what Ty does. Counters the Risen Reef, takes 1 from Flamekin Harbinger, which he's not going to care about that. Untaps Crushing Footfalls down to 2, and now we're kind of getting into the meat of this game.
Meat indeed. Another land drawn. So 2, potentially 3 lands in hand for Ty here. Could potentially fetch and go for the Seasoned Pyromancer, hold up this Fire Ice, and I believe that the other card in hand is a Prismari command.
Yeah, it is. And that, there are definitely options here. Icing the Utopia Sprawl, the Fire Ice also could hit if there was another Risen Reef. You could kill the Risen Reef and the Harbinger. You can do a variety of things with both Fire Ice and Prismari command. Ty doesn't do anything yet, and Robert passes back. So not a lot of action there on either side, which means that the Crushing Footfalls just gets to tick down effectively for free. And with Crushing Footfalls ticking down, I guess Ty really is interested in just letting the game advance a turn.
Yeah, interesting to say the least, but it does make me very curious. Okay, we see a Force of Negation and I believe 2 Solitudes in hand for Robert Hayes. So that does kind of explain why not a lot of play was simply just made. Trying to hold up the mana to cast this Force of Negation, as I don't believe we have a blue spell to pitch to it.
Right. So maybe we can get the color named on Utopia Sprawl this game, but this Force of Negation might be hardcastable regardless. But then Ty's got one of his own that he could hardcast back on the next upkeep when the Crashing Footfalls does come out. Stomping Ground tapped. Can Flamekin Harder go all the way? I'm guessing not.
I mean, it's gonna try. It's gonna do its best.
Okay, there it goes again.
Putting in the work, putting in the hours.
Okay, Utopia Sprawl is on blue, so icing that will make it. What is that? Is that land in the middle of Robert Hayes' board? Is that a fetch land?
I don't think so, but I'm not sure which one it is. Some of those expeditions get a little bit difficult to figure out exactly what they are.
All right, so Prismari Command is a player from Ty at the end of Robert's turn. We are definitely drawing 2 and discarding 2. And the other mode is currently unknown. I believe you have to choose 2. There we go. It's treasure.
Treasure. Okay.
I mean, that did seem like what was likely to happen there. I want to jump the gun. Okay, Crashing Footfalls, unsuspend. Resolves.
Make us some Rhinos.
Yeah, Robert Hayes is like, I'm not wasting a counter on this. I have 2 Solitudes. Are you crazy?
Yeah, certainly would not be the best use of those Solitudes, but if push comes to shove, we might have to use them on some unideal targets going forward.
2 Solitudes will also increase Ty's life total back to 20, making the Flamekin Harbinger have a lot more work to do. We're really asking a lot of that little guy.
We really are. It's true.
Robert Hayes with basic island and plains on the board, so somewhat, although not totally covered in the case of a Blood Moon, if those are still in deck. Here's the Hardcast Solitude. Ty does not have an answer to that, and one of the 4/4s will be eaten alive.
Eaten alive and vaporized into health.
All right, Fire Ice does take down the Solitude, so icing the land as opposed to firing down would have been a temporary solution, but card positive, whereas this way it's card negative from Ty's perspective. And Robert Hayes, Cavern of Souls, that's, I mean, Ty's counters can't counter creatures anyway at the moment, although I guess a future Mystical Dispute potentially would matter.
No, we have another Solitude and a Force of Negation. Okay, so the other card that was unknown is this Fury.
Okay, well, Fury is going to take down the other. So these 2 4/4s that Ty had to wait 4 turns to get are now vanished from existence.
Oh, okay,
And
not attacking.
Flamekin Harbinger, feeling a little shy, stays back this time. Unclear to me exactly why that would be the case, but okay.
Oh, I guess there was 3 mana untapped, and if there was something like a Violent Outburst, don't want to attack the Flamekin into some quick 4/4s.
Yeah, maybe so. Potentially there could be an Endurance, but I don't see why that would be the case. Although these Temur Rhinos decks, I have seen them run out of Rhinos. Like, you can just draw and cascade through all 4 of them, and then having something like Endurance to reshuffle them back in your deck does actually make a difference. Shardless Agent, here we go. Oh my goodness, an actual cascade. The deck doing what it's supposed to do for the second time. There it is.
And we didn't even have to dig that far.
Yeah, it was hiding near the top, eager to get into play. So, Robert Hayes, I believe his hand is Force Negation and Solitude. So, the pair of 4/4s get into play alongside the 2/2 artifact creature, and Ty is looking like he's got a stable position here.
Certainly a stable position indeed. Trying to figure out what was the draw for Robert Hayes is always made a little bit difficult by these shiny foils that are beautiful in his deck, but do make it a little bit difficult for us sometimes.
Don't stress yourself out about things like that. Think about what would happen if we got Kahira out of Companion Zone, cast it, and attacked with a 4/4 Fury.
Oh!
That's a monster.
And it has first strike, so it does pretty okay against at least one of these Rhinos, but maybe not so good against both of them.
Oh, it does okay against both of them. Double strike. I mean, you can trade for both Rhinos.
Oh, double strike. Oh, my goodness.
Yeah. Fury is a monster. It attacks hard. So, okay, we're just going to attack in. We can just trade for one of them. Or Ty can choose to take 6. Ty could also choose to chump block with Charlotte's Agent. There are options
one of the
aplenty.
draws was Ephemerate for Robert Hayes.
Well, that would be pretty good.
And you can do some fun things, with the double strike and some ephemerating with Fury.
All right, so 1 token blocks. And here is the Ephemerate. So probably with first strike damage on the stack. Force of negation. And I believe Robert has his own force of negation.
Yep.
This will draw it out though. And I don't think Ty should feel too. I mean, well, he is going to lose basically his entire board. So maybe this is kind of bad. So Fury blinks. Shoots down a Rhino. And picks up the Charlotte's Agent. Because first strike damage was already done. I believe I said on the stack, but actually first strike damage could have just resolved.
Yes.
I mean, I don't really think damage on the stack has existed for a few years now, but bear with me.
But we get what you mean. We get what you mean.
Yeah. Oh, now this is a pretty significant draw. Because now, not only are we going to clear the board, but Robert was planning on his Ephemerate coming back. And that now has no target.
Oh, that's huge.
He does have, the last card is Solitude. Okay, so I mentioned yesterday about the unclear on the timing of how this works, and it does appear to work in favor of the Ephemerate player. The trigger to rebound goes on the stack. Then that can be responded to, which is what happened. So, okay, so Robert Hayes is completely all in, but has cleared the board and has Solitude and Kahira left over. Ty has Seasoned Pyromancer and a land and a Brazen Borrower, and I feel like 2 cards would be just fine right here. There are still, 2 Crushing Footfalls left in the deck, so Ty can significantly reload even this turn. This is what I think of. We didn't really see these Rhinos decks operating at full power earlier in the weekend, but this is what it's supposed to be like. I mean, you get Rhinos, your opponent deals with them, you get more Rhinos, your opponent maybe deals with them, and then you get more Rhinos again.
and it's the same thing over and over again. And now a Seasoned Pyromancer is going to be quite nice after being hellbent there. Going to get 2 cards for a tie there.
And Robert Hayes is someone who checks the top before shuffling. As we just saw there, shuffle, fetch line cracked, and peeks at the top couple cards just to see, what was there, just in case. Okay,
there are 2 types of Magic players.
Indeed. So Seasoned Pyromancer can trade with Solitude unless Kahira comes into play, in which case Pyromancer is not going to be enough on its own, which would be a nuisance. Also, Robert Hayes start gaining significant chunks of life.
Yeah. Oh.
Decision time.
What?
That was an Omnath.
Okay.
So, what does Robert want to do? He's going to go with Omnath.
Okay.
It's hard to criticize that choice.
ETB, do a little bit of drawing, and then imagine if we don't get a land, the next immediate play is to just go for Kahira. And this attack is interesting. Yeah.
I agree. So Solitude comes in, decides it's not worth waiting for the Kahira. If the Kahira survives and the Solitude, and the Omnath survives, we'll be fine. So we're not even going to worry about the Solitude. Let it trade with the Pyromancer. And Ty, it looks like he's got, I think, a Force Negation, another Brazen Borrower, and a land.
Ooh, all right. And some damage at least trying to be pushed back towards Robert Hayes. Ty sitting at a nice 20, thankful to some Solitudes, and just trying to at least keep on the clock with this Brazen Borrower.
All right, land drop into play. Trade number 1.
Trying to figure out what land this is and decide if it's a fetch or not, but considering we didn't immediately go for a fetch, I don't think that this expedition is.
There is Kahira. Well, but if it is a fetch land, then we could very easily be waiting until Ty's turn to fetch again to gain another 4 life. All right, so Omnath gets in there for 5, I believe, this time around because of Kahira.
And that's a pretty significant clock, and the ability knife is going to make it a lot harder for this Brazen Borrower, now these 2 Brazen Borrowers to be able to keep up with the Elementals deck.
Why is my chosen 2 blue and 1 3/1 flyer a legend, and Brazen Borrower is not? I can't play 2 Vanilla Clicks at once. I mean, sure, I can bounce up with Caracas, which has been very useful on many an occasion, but still, I would also like to be able to have 2 in play at once. There is a Solitude.
Fair.
There is a Solitude. Well, it is fair, and the thing is, I don't want it to be.
Yeah,
Solitude comes in. What do we have?
Cryptic Command. Okay.
Yeah.
We see you.
Counter has to be counter draw, right? Ty needs action.
Yeah, it does need action. While we criticized the earlier Cryptic Command for not being a bounce, this one does go for the draw, and the Crashing Footfalls is the draw, which is at this point in the game not. Oh, what?
Well, Robert Hayes just had a pleasure that I've had a few times as well, as pointing out, hey, this is a Cavern of Souls. This thing that you're countering is not going to be countered.
Oh, boy.
So, I believe that was Cryptic Command, counter draw, but it turned out to just draw. And then Solitude took down the Brazen Borrower. This has been a long day, and this Cavern of Souls is just in this array of foil lands. It still Ty's responsibility to keep track of it, but I understand slipping up there, and here comes a very large attack. Ty's draw was, of course, a Crashing Footfalls that was suspended, because what else could it be at this point in the game? And I believe we have reached the end.
Slowly but surely, a hard-fought match from both players. Despite drawing this Fire Ice, I don't think that even icing one of these creatures is enough to keep Ty in this match, and I believe the other card is a Force of Negation.
It is. Okay, Fire Ice, kill Kahira, because that is the only thing that can be killed, and Ty doesn't have enough left, and that will do it. So, Robert Hayes defeats Ty's Temur Rhinos deck, 4 color elementals, will face Will Krueger's Orzhov Hammer deck in the finals.
I mean, and this is Robert Hayes' second finals. If anybody is going to be coming for Will Kreuger in points, it would probably be Robert Hayes.
That's true. Will Kreuger, on top of leaderboard, probably thinking, well, I want to win this tournament anyway, but I want to more. Also, on top of that, I don't want Robert Hayes to win. So, yeah, players battling out for points that do actually conceivably matter to them. We'll have the finals for you in a few minutes.